Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi there.
Javier, your microphone's a little bit low.
Can you hear me now? Give me a second.
You're nice and quiet.
Better now?
Oh, that's a bit better, yeah.
Yeah. Some change my volume every time.
Okay. I think it's just going to be the three of us.
Okay.
Better than the two of us, though. We've had one meeting. We've had one meeting like that. So I think we should start by catching up on all the things we've done in the last sprint. Got lots of stuff there, as we can see. Yeah, so I think David should take over from here because he's made some progress for us. So maybe we can just have a little read of this and see how we're getting along. Let's make the font bigger. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, just give me a minute to finish off with something.
Okay, that's fine. In the meantime, what was I going to say? So this is the whole thing about the sponsors issue and using opencollective.com or something like that to take care of all the sort of, I think it's the finances mainly to keep it all transparent. But David can explain better. Javi, you were there at the meeting when we first discussed this, right?
No, I was in a previous one where you mentioned that GitHub was offering, not GitHub, sorry, GitLab was offering sponsorship or something like that, and that we should try to see if we pursue that, but I didn't participate in this one about Open Collective, but I get the idea is something like some funding for the organization or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. Is we were getting lots of pop-ups in GitHub about getting sponsorship, joining the sponsorship program there, and we were just looking in how to do it. I didn't fill in this feedback. Actually, I got this feedback a long time back. We were supposed to speak to Blake Folsom, and I didn't talk to him directly. I just got the feedback through one of the other guys, and the feedback was positive. They were okay with us moving forward. I think I mentioned this in the meeting, but I didn't write it down. I didn't finish off this card. But we do need to just inform SaltStack of what our planning is, what we're thinking about doing. David, are you ready to tell us what's been going on?
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Okay, that's fine. In those 10 seconds, I'm just going to jump over here then, and I haven't had a look at this for a little while. Have you been looking at the net managers recently? Javier, is it all going through fine?
No, I've been really in a couple of crazy weeks with my paid job and haven't checked much. The last thing I found was that issue with Sol that I mentioned with the package managed.
Oh yeah. Was that to do with net managers?
No. It's another job I have where they asked me to automate some things, and suddenly I found the network being consumed by remote packages.
Yeah.
And there is where I saw it. I still have to better debug it. I had issues also trying to use a proxy with Salt. I noticed that the remote packages cannot manage proxies.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lovely thing that if you set up a proxy in your minion, the proxy uses Tornado.
Yeah.
And it requires the Tornado package, as Tornado was included in Salt. As Tornado is included in Salt, you cannot use both. Either you set up the Tornado package on your own or use the proxy. So there's a bug field for that already, but it will be added in the next version.
The next version of Salt.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I had to set up a local repo and things like that. And well, and I have to try to figure out that issue to see if I can submit a patch or at least report it better because I had no feedback on the channels.
Oh, no feedback on the issue, or you mean on Slack?
On Slack, neither in the releases channel or in the general channel, nobody.
Maybe it's the time of day. If you ask at another time, perhaps maybe just repeat the question.
It's quite possible, yeah.
Maybe even now is quite
Okay.
good time. Okay,
I'm ready now.
you're ready. Let's do this.
Okay, so yeah, I think Javier hasn't been here for the whole discussion. So yeah, we have been discussing ways of raising funds for the project. I mean, we haven't really discussed what we would use the funds for, if we got any, but whatever we use it for, we still need some way of kind of dealing with all of the financial elements to this. So, I mean, there are a few ways of doing it as an open source project. I mean, the most basic way would be that kind of one of us either uses their personal banking accounts or sets up a bank account in their name on behalf of the project and collects the money and distributes it and pays invoices and things like that. But there's a kind of, that's not really satisfactory in terms of transparency and kind of trust and things like that, and that we're doing everything correctly. So up until I think fairly recently, the only other way that you would do this kind of thing is set up some kind of legal entity for the project. So a company or a charity or a foundation or something like that. But that's just kind of a lot of work, a lot of upkeep, a lot of admin, and just kind of overkill. So there's this, other people have kind of tried to solve this problem. And so one of the solutions is this open collective platform. And the whole point of the platform is, well, it's a web app that kind of, well, so the platform doesn't actually do any of the financial work. They've just created the software for other people to be able to administer projects and things like that. So what that means is we as an open source project or a collective, as they would call it, we would need to kind of associate ourselves with a fiscal host. And the fiscal host is a legal entity. And in most cases, they're kind of charities or non-profits in some way. And there's one in particular, which is the biggest on the platform, which is called the Open Source Collective, and it's specifically designed to support open source projects.
So is this the same as? One second, I'm just getting mixed up with the naming here.
Yeah, well, they kind of, they are, the names kind of clash a bit.
Right.
But
okay. Yep. So Open Collective is the platform, and Open Source
yeah.
Collective is the actual fiscal host.
Yes, and I should point out that there are many different ones on the platform, but the OSC, let's call it OSC, is US based, based in California. It's kind of set up as a non-profit that you saw on that page that you went to, 501c6.
Yep.
That is kind of specifically a non-profit organization, which means that no private person or shareholder will benefit from any income for the organization.
Excellent. Yeah.
These are the projects which have associated themselves with OSC.
Yeah. So there's quite a few there.
There are fairly big projects there. I mean, there's over 2,000 in total.
Yep.
And some of the projects are fairly big, like Linux distributions.
Yep. Electron.
There's an interest. Yeah, oh right. I hadn't seen Electron myself.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
So yeah, this is a popular kind of idea, and many people kind of agree with this way of doing things. So yeah, because OSC is US based, the currency, everything is going to be in dollars. But I mean, there are actually fiscal hosts based in the UK and or Europe as well.
What I think is
I
good
mean,
about just jumping in. I think what's good about the US based is because ultimately we're going to be going through salt stack. It would be good if it was US based.
Yeah, I agree
for
with
long
that.
term. Yeah.
I just wanted to, expand on what's available.
Yep.
In full. Javier, I mean, I don't know where you were based. Are you based in Europe or South America?
South America, in Argentina.
Okay. So the kind of the key point about this is obviously there's a cost to it, and the fees for OSC are 10% of any incoming funds, plus we would pay for any payment processing, and any interest generated on our funds would go to OSC. So that I guess if there's any catch, that's the catch. There's a 10% levy.
Yep. That's to be expected. It's going to cost someone
There's
something or
obviously
time.
going to be some kind of cost to it, and I mean, I guess we could hope for a flat fee, but no, it's 10%, and I think all of the other hosts of fiscal hosts are more or less around that price point anyway. Then probably most importantly as well is in terms of intellectual property, all of that remains with us, whether as a project or as individuals. OSC doesn't take ownership of any copyright, trademarks, logos, brands, anything like that.
Right.
The relationship can be brought to an end with 30 days notice by either party, either side. And if that were to happen, any funds that we would have left in our kind of account with OSC would have to be transferred to another non-profit. So yeah, nobody can personally benefit from this.
Yep.
Other than, I mean, payments to people are possible, but that's kind of agreed within the budget and the accounts and things like that for work done, or
of course,
maybe for fixing bugs or something like that. We could pay people, but as a kind of an overall investment, nobody's going to benefit personally.
Right.
So
for you guys that are in UK, I guess, isn't it better some EU or UK based non-profit or something like that? I mean, for reasons like privacy or any other concern that being in the US might be a problem?
Well, I don't think there's going to be much personal information, involved in this. As I understand it, payments are mainly made over using PayPal. So, you'd only really need to sign up with an email address or whatever. But in the grander scheme of things, it's like Imran said, really kind of we're branching off, or we have a relation to SaltStack, the company, and they are obviously completely US based, founded and based. So, and there are other people, other contributors as well, who are based in Europe and yourself in South America. So, if it was UK based, then I guess other people would have similar concerns.
Yeah, in our case in South America, there's not much travel on either of I don't know, US or Europe. I guess that personally I prefer Europe privacy concerns and things like that. But
Okay.
as you
Well,
mentioned, being so being a non-profit and not necessarily something related to our personal accounts, I don't, as you say, I agree. I don't think that it would be much issue being one on the other, right?
hmm um, well, we can certainly.
Do you know of the other fiscal hosts available from the UK and Europe?
Yeah, I mean, there is a page similar to the one you're on, but it's got more. Did you type?
I
Did you
just typed
search
fiscal
fiscal
hosts. Yeah,
host?
yeah. So
If you go
oh,
somewhere,
not that one.
well, you wouldn't want look
Yeah.
at
Well,
if you go to the home page, discover.
okay, go back to discover.
I mean,
Right.
yeah, maybe so. Oh, no.
Other? No.
No, these are the collectives, which are the projects.
Yep.
It would be another page, which when I looked at it, there was probably about maybe between 10 and 15 different fiscal hosts on the platform. Let me see if I can. But I mean, maybe Javier's right. EU generally. Yeah, there's another.
There's another page still. Yeah.
Yeah, more of a kind of a home page kind of
All hosts
thing.
here. Here you go. This is the one I think.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, you can see the third one along is Europe, 124 collectives. There's one a bit down.
There's a GBP
which
one
is
here.
for UK.
Yeah.
I suppose the EU is generally better regarded in terms of privacy and things like that. So maybe this is a decision that we have to make, not obviously not today or anything, but at a later point.
Yeah, sorry. Also,
After,
seeing the page that you're moving, it seems that the Open Collective has different branches, so probably moving from one to the other might be not such an issue in the future.
You mean whether we start somewhere and move it somewhere else later? It's still okay.
Yeah, as you say, start in the US because all is US based, and then if somebody has a concern or something like that, we can move to another branch.
Or we can even propose starting in the UK or in Europe and moving back to America. So meaning because they ultimately you said they can be transferred. So we can select the host that we're most comfortable with as the current team that's together, and over time that could be changed quite easily. It looks like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can certainly terminate the relationship, and as I said, yeah, that any funds that are still remaining in our account or pseudo account, then yeah, that can be transferred, or that would be transferred to another non-profit, including presumably another fiscal host. So
yeah, if you look at here, Manjaro has one in Open Collective Europe, and they have another one in the UK side as well.
Yeah, so again, it certainly maybe is something that's possible. That we are associated with several of these things, and we pay out where it's most important, most relevant, most appropriate for a particular person or service or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so the fiscal host is open in the sense we can maybe consider which one to use. I mean, for me, the most sense would probably be the US based one, but since there are other concerns, we can always look at one of the other ones in Europe, probably the same. Like you said, if they're branches of the same collective, they all are using the same name, so we could start somewhere else. Again, we just propose that to SaltStack what we're saying, the reasons why, and that looks fine. So what we're talking about, this part here, is to do with Open Collective itself, right? The agreement is governed by laws
No, that's
to do
with
with
OSC.
All right,
So
right. Okay.
we would be signing any kind of contract would be with OSC as the fiscal host, the legal entity. In terms of Open Collective, the platform, we just sign up with open an account with an email and a password and that kind of thing. There's no, as far as I know, there's no further legal arrangement, but yeah, we would have to sign an agreement with OSC, and that agreement would be governed by the laws of California.
Right.
And it's quite clear in the terms of the agreement that we can't take them to court in any way if we wanted to or needed to in the future. But there's kind of a mediation or a dispute resolution protocol, which is basically go to mediation. Well, the first point is actually just discuss it with them and try and come to some suitable agreement. But then you can go to mediation and then arbitration, but not court. You couldn't take a civil case against OSC, and then I presume that applies to us as well. They can't take us to court.
Right. It would be worth confirming that as well, just to make sure. But at a general level of what I've seen here, I think this is quite good. I think I'm happy with this to move forward. Is there any reason why we shouldn't? Something that we're missing?
No, well, only this decision about which host to go with. But yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a particular downside to this in any way. If in 6 months or whatever it doesn't work out, or we get no money or whatever, we stop.
We could set it up in Paris and get 0% fee. If we've got someone Paris-based, which one of the guys might be. But I think that's going too far. I don't think we need to worry about that. But just having a look here, so it just generally looks like, it says 5%.
Well, I think because that's kind of a documentation page, it seems to be out of date. And
okay,
if you look at OSC things, it says 10%.
Right. I was just looking because again, host fee here I see 5%. The host fees. So is there something else?
If you look at OSC's own page,
okay,
which is oscollective.org.
So that's oscollective.org.
Yeah, you could do a / hash criteria just to go down.
Hash criteria.
If you go.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Then if you
there.
go down a little bit more.
Yeah, and you'll see the 10%.
Or up rather.
Okay.
So this is that.
There is fee of 10% of income fund.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm presuming they've changed and documentation on Open Collective is out of date or whatever. But
right.
That is their own page, so I would imagine that it's
okay.
Correct.
So if I'm collecting here, what the next steps are, they would be effectively. Are we all in agreement that this is fine? We should move forward, yeah?
I am, yes.
Yeah, completely.
Okay,
sense.
Great. So in terms of the steps, it would be select a fiscal host. Just correct me if I'm missing something.
No, that's right.
Consider US versus Europe. And then I suppose would we start with Open Collective first and actually just make an account?
Yes, we do that as individuals.
As individuals? Each person has to do it?
No, but anybody who wants to
I think that'd be something that
get
SaltStack,
involved.
I think that's something that SaltStack would want to do. From what I understood, well, we can ask them, but we need to find out whether they're the ones who have to set up the main account on Open Collective. Get account.
I mean, the reason I say individual, that if you look at the terminology page, which I think you have had up somewhere on the far right.
On the far right. Well, show me. Oh, terminology. Here we go.
Yeah, entities and structure. So if you look on the right in the sidebar, we are all individuals. So really, each of us that are going to be involved with this project, from a financial sense, we would sign up to Open Collective as an individual, and then presumably one of us kind of starts this collective of salt stack formulas.
Okay.
I mean, I think maybe you should confirm with SaltStack that, you know, one of us or you or you as the captain has the right to kind of start up this collective / project.
So we'll get that confirmed, so they can start that point up and work out who's going to set up the main account for that, or what needs to be done next. And I suppose finally is make arrangements with the fiscal host, whoever we've selected.
Yeah, so there's an application process.
Okay. Complete application process with selected fiscal host.
Yeah. And at least with OSC, if you remember, or from a previous meeting, the criteria is basically that, well, all the work is under an open source license, and also that, we have 100 stars on GitHub.
Yeah.
And we satisfied that quite easily.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's
yep.
This sounds pretty much the same issue that we had with the stub of GitLab accounts and things like that, right? That they didn't want to set up things on behalf of the SaltStack organization. They wanted us to do things on our own. Remember?
Yeah.
I think that they are going to go the same road here, especially that this is a non-profit thing, and perhaps they don't want to mess.
We'll let them know what's going on, and they can let us know how they want to proceed, whether they want to be involved in that stage of setting it up. Because ultimately, you know, there's been a lot of people in our position before who've been very involved in SaltStack formulas, and now, you know, they're not around anymore. Whereas it's still attached to SaltStack, you know, in some way or shape or form. It's still to do with them. So ultimately, it needs to be kept close enough with them for the longer term. Whoever's
I agree that should something happen to one of us or several of us or whatever, that there's some continuity available.
That's the word I was going to use. Yeah, so that's good. So we can start in terms of select. Now, how are we going to do this? Because we don't meet up that often. I mean, we meet up every 2 weeks, but I mean, with the wider group. So should this be a message in the, should we get feedback in the working group, the GitHub discussions, or is this enough to select? I think we should try to get some of the feedback from the others, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we can. What about in Slack, at the very least? Or
not everyone's there. I don't feel like we get much of a response there for a lot of things we say.
Okay.
I don't think that's always the best play. I think the most formal or the way to elicit the most feedback, not that it always does, but I think the GitHub discussions is quite useful for this. I can't think, there was something I was using recently, but I can't even remember what it was. I felt like we jumped ship from GitHub discussions to something else, and I can't remember what that something else is. It's not coming across my mind. No, I can't remember. I just want to pull in the views of the other main sort of contributors, give them a chance to have their say.
Yeah, I agree, particularly because, as far as I know, none of the main contributors as of yet are actually in the US, as far as I know. So that is something to bear in mind.
I think the vast majority of them are in Europe.
Mm.
So it would be well worth getting their opinion because they may also feel the same thing. So maybe putting a message up there and then just finding out from SaltStack if they're okay with our idea, whether they're okay with us to proceed with this.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's nothing else I can see right now. We can convert these, or I'll convert these to cards in the current sprint. But just that's what we've collected so far. That's great. That's good. Thank you for running with that because it really needed someone to pay some attention to it, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do any justice to that.
Yeah,
That's
no
great.
problem.
Fantastic. So I'll just close these up, and oops, I didn't mean to close that last one. So that's last sprint covered. Now on to the current, just having a look at, I can't get to there. So I'll add those cards into this. I've made this user story for that. So I'll add those in later from what we've just discussed. The documentation, Daniel will be around in the next meeting. So we'll leave that for now. And I did notice that there was no feedback at all from the other organizations on those issues about contacting them and seeing what we could do.
True.
We'll leave it open for another couple of weeks and see if there's any feedback in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, that was what I had in mind. Yes, so that then it would have been open. The issues would have been open for about a month, and
yeah,
obviously
Sorry,
the issues.
as I was not around, what was the idea? To try to merge or to try to get a common?
Certainly not to merge, just to
But-
get a bit
Here it is here.
more.
Here it is here. So this
Just
is
to see if there are areas that we can collaborate. I mean, I think we want to make some changes to SALT, the project. I can imagine at some point in the future. And if the other formula groups agree with those changes, then I can see, it would give it a bit more momentum. And also at the same time share best practice or whatever, how they deal with the pillar issue, things like that, keeping formulas up to date. I can see that there would be collaboration would be possible without merging the actual formula ecosystems.
I mean, look, they're there. Look, even 2 hours ago, it's active, at least to some extent. There are people around. Javier, any thoughts about this, or just it doesn't really matter?
No, I was trying to check the other group. I see that the salt formulas group,
Yeah.
there are some sort of 7 people, and nobody answered. I wonder how much activity does it has?
Sorry, didn't
Yeah,
catch that
well,
last.
Um,
Yeah,
at least we can say we tried.
definitely.
yeah, it makes perfect sense. I really like the idea of trying, as you said, not merge, but at least get a common a consensus or a common idea of what to do or
Yes, exactly.
focus, something like that.
Actually, we might need to leave it open a little bit longer because if you look at the dates here, you've got 28th July when you put this in there. And the last update on any repo in salt stack formulas, sorry, or salt formulas, yeah, was 7th of July. So they haven't been active recently. So maybe give them a little bit, maybe we can give them a few more weeks than that, just in case no one's had a look.
Yeah. I mean, it's only an open issue. It's not like we're affecting their project in any way. And even with a closed issue doesn't actually go anywhere either. So
yeah,
I often look at the closed issues.
Yeah, I think we can just hang in there and hopefully we'll get at least some feedback at some point. Just leave those open, I suppose. Right. New images. Perhaps we talk about that in a minute because I've got something open. Stacker is the same. Nothing. Anyone had a chance to look at Stacker?
No, not me.
No. Okay.
Oh,
No. Okay. And again, this goes back to. We'll talk about this in a minute. It's a bit of a longer discussion about the images. The pre-commit, and again, I've got that open to it in another workspace so we can have a look at that as well. So I'm just making sure there's nothing else here. What was that method you mentioned for that? You said that we've got the right, we do have, I'm forgetting, we're on the right tier. We can actually do this. We can do this using GitLab's feature itself.
I
Mirroring.
believe so, yeah. Well,
And
what I said to you was, yeah, even though if you look at documentation in terms of mirroring repos, it says, oh, this is available at a certain tier.
Yeah.
All public repositories have access to all of the tiers by default.
So what was I blocked with? I remember there was something that had to be done, and I can't remember what that was now. Do you recall? Was there something we needed to fill in first? I can't remember what it was.
I think you might be talking about the fact that there's also they're not only features at a project level, but there's also features at a kind of an organizational level.
Right.
Like and you would have to apply to GitLab to get access to those.
Okay.
But those are more the workflow type stuff, I believe.
Right. Because I just can't remember. Do you remember where you mentioned that to me? Was it in Slack?
In Slack, yeah.
Was it in Slack? Okay, I really should get that feedback here because I've forgotten what was mentioned. Because if it can be done, it's just worth getting on with it, because then we can start actually mirroring formulas both ways a lot easier. So I need to find that. So I'll leave that in there as something that needs to be, need to get that feedback and find out what we need to do here. Okay. The bridges, and this is about the third issue, and I've got that open as well. So I've got the three things open that we can discuss further. So let's move away from Tiger. If I can trouble the two of you right now a little bit and just, we did talk about this a bit last meeting as well. 3001.1 is out. So redoing the matrix again in terms of what pre-salted images we should have. And I feel like, I mean, we've got 54 there altogether. No, is that 60? We've got 60 now that we're considering building. If I just focus for a minute on the first two, because that's where there's some new things that need to be done. And we did cover it a little bit, but just so Javier is involved as well. What I was saying, obviously, I've already talked to you about, giving a lot more focus to the master images. And obviously the Tiamat images now that we can build that aren't currently being built. I was suggesting we build all the ones that are possible with Tiamat, the ones that are available in that repo, and we build, was it everything? I think it was just everything again in master. So we have, for every unique platform, we have a master and or a Tiamat image. Is that clear so far? Is that okay as an idea, starting point?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, usually we don't usually do the older platform. So we'd only normally do the latest one, Debian 10. We wouldn't do Debian 9. But I'm saying let's do Debian 9 as well. And let's do 1604 as well, and CentOS 7 and stuff like that. So just do everything we can for these first two columns at least. Because then we can, I just want to link this in with the other part of the idea. So I'm just jumping between the thoughts, but they all kind of integrate. Did you see what Daniel put together here? When he did the new map.ginger here in OpenSSH formula. Did you guys have a little look at this? Or no chance?
I haven't looked in detail, no. I got the gist of what you were doing.
All right, I'm just trying to find the relevant bits here. One of them is under there, and one of them is under the test. So let's get the bit over here. So we've got this new, so the idea is this, and I think this is something that should be done irrespective of whether we move to a new map.ginger or not. I think every formula can benefit from this. But what you have is a new state tree called map data with an underscore. And what this does, it runs this one state, which basically uses this ginger file, and it pulls the map out for that particular platform, that unique platform, and it dumps it into a file. So what happens then is you have a file for every, wrong place. You have a file for every platform, and you can see at a glance what the map with the pillar that we've got in the repo, because we should get an exact representation of what should be in that map for each platform. So now you can go to any one of these and you can see what the map in this formula would actually produce. So when you dump the map into a file, and then that becomes a comparison file that you can actually run this state in Travis or wherever and confirm that the map is being produced exactly as we've defined it here on in these in these dump files.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty
because
cool. Yeah.
ultimately the map is the central part of all of our formulas, and it's
Mhm.
when things go wrong there that we normally end up with problems elsewhere. So if I can just see straight away this new PR will affect the map in this way, I can be more confident of accepting or rejecting those changes or asking for something to be done, and that's done for every single unique platform.
So is there an automated comparison somewhere in here, or is it done by?
No, it's automated now. So what happens here is if you go to this file over here, it effectively just pulls in that file and does a file comparison. The content should match that file. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually that simple.
Yeah, and does it have to match exactly in terms of the white space and things like that? Or
Well, remember, these are map files that are being dumped in. They're serialized into they're serialized with the YAML serializer, so they'll always come out exactly as they're supposed to. Yeah. So we can depend on that and just do that comparison and make sure that the map is always being produced correctly. So if we go to kitchen.yaml, you'll see that the idea is to run it as the first state for every suite. So it's always being tested in there to make sure the map is always, because the pillar might always be, the pillar may be different. So we need to make sure that it's producing the right. Actually, we might not do it for every state. That's not correct. We might only do it for the default one, because obviously if there's a different pillar, the map itself will be different. So it'll probably be done only for the main suite. But the point is it's there at the beginning, and so it's being tested every time in each Travis run across every platform. So we're sure that our formulas are working the way that they should be.
And so when you did this, when you replaced map.ginger in OpenSSH, you set up this map data test first.
Absolutely.
Did you?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
then migrated the
so we could be confident. So we could be confident that the new map.ginger was actually doing exactly what it was supposed to do. So if you look here at the actual, that's not the one. It must have been the one before that. That's not the one either. Okay, update to version 4. And if you look here now, the only difference was, if I think go to the bottom, you'll see in each of these map files, the only difference that was introduced was this new map_ginger key that was coming in from the new map, but it wasn't changing anything else in the map itself. So we were confident that it was actually a pure refactor. You understand my point, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So we could see exactly what it was introducing to the map, and because that was what was expected, that's absolutely fine. So you have to, the PR author has to state what's going to be different in the various map.gingers, in the various maps that are for each platform.
And specifically here then, what's this config get routes?
Okay, this is to do with the new map.ginger, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought so. But
yeah, if I was to go to that for a second.
To config.get.
What you have is you can
routes.
configure where
the routes are where they're coming from, right?
That's right. So if I go to the map.ginger here, at the very, or near the beginning, if I can get, so if we look over here, it is called map untitled config get roots. So you start by settling it as the actual tuple root, and then you add to that whatever has been set there by that pillar value or that config value. So it can still be pulled in from any part of the config. And what that then does is that gives you the ordering as to how the YAML files are merged together.
Mm-hmm.
You can override that using your own config. So if you don't need all of these, you only use the ones you need, or if you have any additional ones, you can add them in. So you may have something like a roll grain or something else that you want to use instead. So you add that in your own config for, at this level, config get roots. Sorry, this part here is actually specific to do with, OpenSSH formula has actually 3 exports from MapGinger. It has
Right. Okay.
OpenSSH, SSHD, and SSH. So it has 3 things there. So what I've done, I've mixed up with 2 things. He didn't, obviously, in the pillar here, we haven't actually set the other value. But what these are the actual exports that are coming out of MapGinger, which have been replaced.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's just been added to that. But what this does, the whole concept, the idea behind it is it gives us that control, and we don't have to guess anymore. The PRs will be, we can be sure that they're doing exactly what they are without introducing any regressions.
Yes.
That's the main idea. But going back to what I was talking about, based upon this, is by having each unique platform, it allows us to keep that testing in place. So what I'm suggesting is maybe even have each unique platform running that works for that formula. And again, the idea with it being mainly the master images, because what we're doing is there are these claims we're making in, which file is it? The formula file, where we're saying it works on all of these OS and OS families and stuff. And many times it doesn't. I'm not sure if this formula has been configured for Windows, for example, or Mac OS. So it'll also be... Yeah.
Well, I agree. Do you remember me saying a couple of meetings ago that actually we should be basing our testing on this file in some way?
We could, yeah. We'd have to work out how to do OS finger though, because I'm not sure the main formula file, as in used by SPM, actually respects that. Because ultimately this formula file is consumed by SPM, so we'd need to work out how that would be done. But at least we can bring some level of adherence to this file if we know, okay, these are the platforms we are sure it's working on, and we know that because the map is being run and we're getting that testing taking place because we've got all the images as well. So we're coming from both angles and making sure everything's being done so we can be more definite about things. Yeah. So going back to this thing about the actual image itself, this plan of having all of the master and all the Tiamat images, are we okay with that as a starting point? The first sort of 23 images have to be those. Is that okay? Is Javier still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I try to see this as we discussed previously. We can build all the images we want. After all,
You're right. You're right.
Now more than ever is automated, so we can even build all the variants we can, and that be it. Then the other part is testing the formulas, which was which is the other part, and there that is another discussion. I mean, it doesn't determine which images we build. We can build all of them, and then we say, okay, these are the ones that we are going to use for testing.
Yes, absolutely. The one thing I'd say, it's not a major point at all, but the one thing I'd say about building images for everything is you'll end up with a lot of redundant images sooner. Like we've got 2017.7 images lying around, and it's taking up any of our space, but it just brings a little element of confusion when we have older and older images, and especially if any of them are well, they're out of support, and then there's the cleanup operation that has to take place afterwards. Again,
I agree.
The one reason why I'm leaning towards this a bit more now, just looking at it from the angle of almost 100 formulas now we have running on. Actually, we have more than 100 using these. I just haven't got around to putting all of them into SSF formula. There's so many that Noel's put through that I haven't had a chance to actually upgrade. But what you get with these two is they're always up to date, and they'll never go, they'll never be unsupported. Whereas the rest of these will eventually, we've only got 54 days or less left with 2019.2 already. So you can already see, is it worth building all of these now? Because it's almost out of support already. So from my angle, where you started this repo, and it was a great job you did that. Even if you look, even in that relatively short period of time, so many of the images we built in that time have now become redundant, and I'm feeling it now. Before maybe I hadn't noticed that switching over, but now I'm beginning to feel that switch over each time. So much so that 3001, I mean, we're already on 3001.1, and we haven't even put the 3001 images out there. I mean, no one has. There's not a single 3001 image being used in any repo at all. And that's been done for, we had these images built, was it 8 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago? I can't remember when 3001 came out. But in that time,
about a month or 6 weeks ago, yeah.
I don't think we've even got it in the template formula. We don't have it anywhere, but neither has anyone else gone looking for those to say, right, let me use 3001. So we're building images that are effectively not being used. So I'm not.
And on the other hand, we have images that are there only because some formula are still outdated, because the non-managers formula are still being used, and some of them are outdated. So
yeah. This isn't about, again, from a position of doing things correctly. I would love to keep the wide matrix and selections of everything. I thought that's a great idea. That's where we came from, and I think I'd love to be able to stick to that. But again, there's only about 3 or 4 or 5 regular contributors, and all of us are very busy. I mean, we've been really busy the last 2 to 4 weeks, and we've had less and less being done. So it's just that dose of reality is, how can we keep this running smoothly, doing the right job, and not, becoming out of date, unsupported. We want to know that it's working on the current version of Salt. And right now we don't have any tests at all on 3001.
Okay, so when I did this at the beginning, the idea that we came up with was to do both Python 3 and 2.
Yes.
The current and the previous distro, and the 3 versions of Salt available, right? That was the original matrix.
Yes.
As you mentioned, and I totally agree with you, we are overly busy, and the images that we are building are both not being the ones that we require, and we are not able to keep the pace. So the current proposition would be current and previous distro, or at least the supported distro, as in Ubuntu's case.
Yep.
Current Salt being the Tiamat images.
Yep.
And the master would be Git one.
The development image.
The developer image.
Yep.
And then, why would we want to support something else?
Yeah, the reason why these are still useful is when we get a bug report coming in and we want to reproduce against that particular combination, it's really useful to be able to do that. And even local testing sometimes, where you have a situation where you're going to be running a different version of Salt.
Wait, sorry. I'm not talking about the images.
Okay.
As I said, we can build all the images if we want. The point is, in testing formulas, which matrix, what matrix do we want to support?
Okay, what I've been suggesting, my suggestion is only select, you know what I'd actually suggest now? I would probably suggest basically every one of the tier map images that work, and the ones that don't, because some of them don't for certain formulas, because certain modules not working at the moment, we use the relevant master one instead. So even though that's more than the 6 that we used to agree upon, because there's not that many. I mean, we had a really busy period, I think about a year ago, where there were so many PRs coming in every day that we wanted to restrict to 6. Right now, there's very little activity relatively. And so I wouldn't even mind if we're testing across more platforms that are supposed to be supported by this formula, and primarily Tiamat because this is the future. This is what future versions of Salt are, not the next one, but the one after that will be Tiamat only. So I'm saying primarily concentrate on this sort of these three columns here effectively as much as possible. That's my suggestion because it's quite easy to maintain as well, relatively, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. Perhaps we can add, checking the matrix, we can add a CentOS 6 and Amazon One, the package version for those, if we want.
Yes, again, there's not very much time left. So CentOS 6 is, just only 115 days, four months. So I'm not even too worried about that anymore because they're going. Arch is the loser in the sense that because it's still stuck on Pi 2, we can't do anything. But again, that's not, we could leave one of those available. We have some of them available up to, I think,
Well, but I think that for Arch, they have packages. We can use theirs.
Python 3?
I think that either I built them or something like that.
What am I doing?
Or in any case, they have their own Python 2 version, I guess. So we can go with those and say, okay, this is what Arch has.
Yeah, Arch has, they're still stuck a bit behind. I did find there was a Pi 3 one that was in the community, but I don't know how to, you have to look somewhere else here. I've forgotten.
On community testing?
Sorry?
In community testing?
No, here. You'll find it here. That's it. I remember now. So if we do Salt, where is it? Here you go, Salt Pi 3. So they're up to 3001.1, but there was a but here, and I can't remember what the but was. I don't think it builds directly. I think you have to take a few steps. So if someone, we can get someone to maybe help us out. There are a few Arch guys that I know are in Slack. Maybe they can help us work out how to do this. But in the meantime, we've still got the old version of Pi 2. If we look in the spreadsheet, we've got the 3000.3 version of Arch still available. So we can still put that in the matrix if we need to.
Yeah, that was my idea. I mean, same for CentOS 6. If they have that one, we just can build that because it's not a big deal and
we've got
there.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. The CentOS 2019.2 is still there. But yeah, we're looking at 54 days for that from the angle of 2019.2 and only 115 days the other way. So we keep it there. We'll keep building it, and soon enough it's not going to be supported anymore, both ways.
Yeah.
But if you're
regarding
okay,
the matrix, yeah, I agree. Let's build the first two.
Yeah.
Let's test on the first two.
Yeah. What I need to do is I've done this all in my own fork of Salt Image Builder, and I haven't put it together into a PR. So I need to put all of this in the PR so that it's available, and hopefully we'll get that merged pretty soon. If I can just ping you in, if you could even just have a glance over it, make sure I'm not doing anything silly, and we'll get that built, and then I can then hopefully at some point just push these out there, because now that I know it's going to be this one test only on, Tiamat or master, it'll make it a lot easier to convert most of the formulas across. I can take them on and make sure I get a number of those done.
Great.
Excellent. I think we're pretty much done for time. Is there any more issues that we need to consider? Oh yeah, the kitchen one. If I could just quickly borrow your both here at the moment. Which formula was that again? I'm lost. Which formula did I just do the Windows testing on?
Packages.
Packages. All right. Yes. Let's have a look. I do stuff, and because I've got so many things going on, I sometimes forget. What am I doing? Packages formula. I'll move it down here. What have I done here? Going the long way around. Right. Javier, did you notice this PR that I put in?
I saw it. Haven't checked it yet.
Yeah. No, it's working. It's working fine in the GitHub Actions. It's just not working so well in Vagrant. It looks like we've got some memory issues. How do you think getting Chocolatey into that Vagrant image, David? Would that be possible?
It would be possible, yeah.
Because I think that would solve the problem. We could just confirm that it's working. Because what I'd like to do is, if I can put this into the SSF formula, everywhere where we have formulas for Windows, should be able to push this out there quite easily. because it's quite structured. David's already done all the work. I just need to make those changes and actually then just push it across to each formula over time, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you say every formula,
The ones involving Windows,
yeah, right. So, okay.
as we said here last time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but is there any other problem with that PR? I mean, should we wait for the vagrant testing to pass first?
I think that would make sense. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just wait around until.
Yeah, I should be able to do that in the next few days. Have a look at it.
All right, great. Okay, I'll leave that with you then.
Yeah,
And
I
then
try to check it too. No, I have an idea. Doesn't GitLab offer Windows testing too?
I'll let David cover that.
Did you say GitLab?
Yeah, GitLab. Sorry.
I haven't looked into it. I mean, I'm pretty sure they do, but the main issue here is the state of the image that they provide for you, because with Windows, you run on what you're given. You know, you can't really do Docker or anything. So,
Right.
so the advantage of GitHub Actions is the actual image that they provide is very well resourced. It's got, you know, all of our dependencies are basically there already.
Okay.
If I can pull this up, the actual.
And I don't know what the state of the GitLab Windows image is like.
I haven't tried any of them, so I'm just asking.
It does
I
take a
take
long
your
time.
word for it.
It does take a long time to run, though. I've noticed that it took 2 minutes or so, or 3 minutes, just to install Chocolatey, and that's in GitHub Actions. So it's quite slow.
Yeah, 12 minutes is very long. I'm not even sure what it's doing in 12 minutes.
Yeah, it's just trying to.
Because the ones
installing Minikube?
No, it already has that installed. That's what I was going to show you. Is that these are the things that are already available. I can't get a bigger view of it, but these packages are already in place.
There's a web page. If you go up to the top of the output, setup job.
Setup job. So is it on
But
on
this
the right?
first line. This first line of the output.
Oh, setup job. Yeah. Okay.
And then virtual environment.
Virtual environment.
There's a link, included software.
Right.
But also this thing about doing Kitchen in the Windows CI, there's also an issue about having kind of an account that you can use, an account with a name and a password. Because essentially the key thing here about running Kitchen is that you're doing it through PowerShell remoting. So it's almost like we're remoting to the same machine, to localhost, rather than running commands straight on the image itself.
Right.
So
right.
that's where the tricky bit is.
Yeah.
That you have to set up the permissions correctly, that you have this user available to you.
Right. I mean, it's got a ton of stuff there, hasn't it? It's got like. Yeah.
Which is why it was so easy.
It's a Windows server, so I guess it has all the server part.
So 1 second, if we're testing a Windows server here, don't we need to look at different versions, or is this the only one they have available?
That's the only thing. That's the only one they have available. Yeah. Now, I mean, the only way that I've thought of that you would be able to test on different versions is that the Kitchen is run on Linux, and then it kind of reaches out to other machines in the cloud, other hosts in the cloud that we would bring up for the purposes of testing, and obviously there's going to be a cost to that.
Yeah.
So
Don't they provide you a Linux shell, like some kind of bash or something like that? Last time I tried a Windows 10, they had an incorporated, not PowerShell, but
The Windows subsystem for Linux. Is that what you meant?
yeah, I'm asking because you're running PowerShell, but why cannot you run directly some shell-like commands if they provide that? And they use the last time I tried a Windows 10 machine. It was
yeah.
not mine, but I'm sure that the owner didn't install anything else because they wanted to. They had a bash like support for
Yeah,
it.
I think
You
that
could
that's
run
not
directly
quite
things there.
the issue. It's the kitchen that, or is it? Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, probably to make kitchen or just run kitchen invoking Ruby directly, something like that. Isn't it possible?
Um, right.
Just to skip all the PowerShell issues.
I don't know
Yeah,
exactly.
maybe we that's. But the thing is, it works now. So you know,
Don't really want to.
don't
Yeah, no,
if it ain't broke,
Reckon don't
don't
fix it.
fix it. I
no,
think
it's
I
okay.
know.
Just asking.
I think I know what you mean, but you know, this is the setup that works currently, and
Okay.
these are also limitations in Kitchen itself.
Okay.
The only thing, and you mentioned why this is, but the only thing that's frustrating about the current setup is you have to sort of cache the files. You have to put them in manually.
Yes.
Like here, I had to cache 3 different files for the chocolatey. So there's
Yeah, I mean, that's only an optimization
really
in the sense that we could you know, all of this comes from the SaltWin repo repository, and we could. The only reason I do this is because in SaltWin repo there's what 100, 150 packages or something,
Yes.
or even 300, and so that's wasted. You know, if you were to download, not just download the whole repo, but also Salt has to process it.
Yeah.
To generate, so it's all wasted cycles, really.
Yeah.
If
It's
we,
not. I think it'll be easy enough to do. I mean, looking at it from the angle of SSF, once once I can
once
see
you
a way
know
of doing this,
the
once you
pattern,
know the pattern, it'll just simply be putting this in a list. You know, just
yes,
that file there, and then that's it, isn't it? For that, and that
yeah,
block
yeah,
will be
you're right.
made, and that, and then that, and so it's not really a major problem. But that's what caught me out at first. And the reason why I had to actually install Chocolatey is not that it wasn't on the actual image, but the actual formula itself tries to install Chocolatey, and when it does that, it's looking for, it's using package install, which is then
Yeah,
looking for.
I think Chocolate's a one-off in that sense. I should look at that package file because really, if Chocolate's already installed, it shouldn't be doing any more work, any further work.
Yeah, you're right. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, it's probably because Chocolate's not installed in program files, I believe.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see because they've obviously installed Chocolatey in a slightly different way into the image, so it doesn't see it when you're trying
exactly.
and it tries to install it again. So it'd be interesting, but it'd be nice to actually get this out there now because you've done that work. So if we can get that Vagrant image up and running, we're confident we can merge this, then it wouldn't take too long to start pushing this out to the other formulas where it's relevant and hopefully get more use made out of this because it's cheap. I mean, GitHub Actions, you run it in the background, Travis is running concurrently, and this might take 12 minutes, but then Travis takes about 8-9 minutes anyway, so it's not really
it shouldn't take 12 minutes, I believe. I mean,
actually,
the ones I've done so far, like a couple of minutes.
Yeah, you can see actually the timestamps here where it's getting stuck. And let me run it. Let me show the timestamps, and you'll see it does some very strange things where it just takes forever to do certain things. So where am I? So you see 929, 929, 929. That's all fine. Somewhere down here, you'll see there's just a big 2-minute jump. That's where it's trying to install. Here we go. 5 minutes. You just jumped 5 minutes. What happened there?
On the install of Chocolatey, is it?
What happened there? I'm trying to look at. Yeah, look. So installing Chocolatey took 5 minutes.
Yeah,
No
I've
idea.
just looked in Saltwind repo, and the reason Chocolatey as a package is always installed, the installer is always run, it's because it doesn't have a version number
Right.
associated with it. That's the
Okay.
problem.
So if we had that, that would speed it up a lot. Yeah.
If we could figure that out, yes, how we can get that to work.
Okay. And after there are the little jumps here. So there's another minute here. What was that? Yeah, a minute when it's again, it's still chocolatey stuff. It's still. Oh no, it's
yeah.
fine.
I mean, installing something like Adobe Reader is going to take a minute or so.
Yeah, and I'm installing some big packages, so maybe they're not the best choice of packages to actually install.
Well, no, you should probably pick the simplest ones.
I just picked the top ones. I just picked the top ones that were available.
Yeah, sure. But something like Adobe Reader's 150 meg installer.
Yeah, so that's not a good idea. So the PR could be improved in that way.
If I recall correctly, when I first started the testing for this formula, I tried to find packages that were not that big.
Yeah.
Because my first idea was, okay, pick this package, and I said install it, and then I realized that it was a bad idea. And I kind of remember there are some available Hello World packages around for a few distros, Windows included, which are really small, and you can try them.
Yeah, what I wanted to do here, Adobe Reader I shouldn't have picked. I just picked the very top package or right at the top, and that was Adobe Reader. Yeah, that one could be taken out because it's not doing anything from an angle. But the reason why I like the Firefox one is it allowed us to test some of the other, like packages, args, and just some other forcing things, because JQ is already on the image. So by forcing it, we can see that it's downgrading it from 1.6 to 1.5.
Right, I see. Because, Firefox is already in the image as well. I was going to mention that.
Right, but it does then install
that particular language, right?
Yeah. So we can fiddle those and get rid of Adobe Reader. That'll save some. But I couldn't even get past the Chocolatey install in Vagrant. So that's what really holding me up is I was running out of memory, and maybe I can fiddle with that, but it just took so long to run as it is that I didn't get around to fiddling with all those things. So if we can get that in the image and it's working, then we can just get straight on with testing.
Okay.
What if you change instead of Adobe Reader, Chocolatey?
What do you mean? Put Chocolatey here?
Yeah, it's already there.
Chocolatey is already in the image anyway.
Yeah, that's the point. It will be fast to try and test and see if it's already there.
But the bit we're getting stuck on. Go on.
Does Chocolatey have a package for itself?
I think it does.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I've seen it. I don't know how it works, but it does.
I used to try that with Puppet a few years ago.
This is the bit that's messing everything up. Where what it's doing is the required packages for Chocolatey is the Chocolatey package itself. So what's happening is when it's hitting the Vagrant, if I was to comment this out, I think it would work.
Yeah, you don't even have to comment it out. You could provide a pillar.
I could, and just
with an empty
packages. You're
empty
right.
List, yeah.
Look at that. I didn't. I mean, I saw it as soon as I saw it. I realized that as well. So we could do that to get rid of it from and then test it in Vagrant and make sure it's working. Yep. Okay, I can try that out. I can try that out to see if that makes a difference.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it sees Chocolatey or not. Well, I'll soon find out. I'll soon find out when I try it. I'll let you know whether that worked. I'll get rid of Adobe Reader. But yeah, we just want to get these good things out there. You got this Windows testing. We've got the pre-commit. We've got baby news. What do you call it? The map ginger.
Map.ginger, yeah.
And the data dump for YAML, and also all these pre-started images that are still there. It's good to actually use all this good stuff we've got and keep things, nice and fresh. So, and yeah, if we can get the Open Collective as well, and maybe even encourage a bit of, if we've got some money coming in, we could have some bounties for, like you said, some really tricky bugs or whatnot.
Yeah,
hopefully encourage a bit more collaboration, a bit more contribution.
Yeah.
Great. Nice. Good. Nice little chat there, hopefully. And we can catch up in, I think it's 2 weeks.
I just wanted to add something before we leave. So I kind of follow what's going on with GitLab to a certain degree. And for the salt image builder, there's actually a new matrix keyword
Oh yeah, yeah.
available.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would that be?
Well, it's called matrix.
Oh, it's called Matrix. Okay, right.
Yeah. If you want to search for it,
Okay.
it's under the YAML.
Yeah. So what I want to do here is GitLab's ci.yaml, and we want to look for the new word, which is matrix, basically.
Yes. If you can find the configuration reference, yeah, and then go down to parallel.
Okay. Yep.
And then, oh yeah, matrix jobs.
Yeah. Right.
So this is new in the very latest version of GitLab that's on the website.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yep. So we should be able to clean things up a lot more using this. Okay. Great. Yeah, but I haven't seen that until now, so that's great. That's something we can do as well, is get that working. Nice.
Yep, pretty nice. So many things to play, so little time.
Yeah, so little time. Yeah, and I'm not even sure what do we do with the Travis anymore for the pre-salted images, because trying to keep both up to date is a bit tough. So I'm going to concentrate on the GitLab for now. And if we want to do the Travis,
yeah, I'm totally agree that we should move directly to GitLab and probably decommission the Travis one.
yeah, or just let it be there, and because we still, like I said, until we move everything over, we're still actually relying on net managers at the moment. A lot of the repos are. So until we move everything over, then we'll keep it there in the background, and we can slowly decommission it, like you said. But that's good to know as well. We've got that as another thing to look at and hopefully find some time for.
Indeed.
All right, guys, that's great. Hopefully we can have some great progress made over the next 2 weeks.
Okay. See you
Brilliant.
around,
Thank
guys.
you. Thanks for your time. Okay, take care.
Cheers then.
Okay.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.